Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for this opportunity. We could share our short story. I've been a Christian since when I was still young. I went to my family's; they're all Christian, and I went to a Christian school and regularly attended Sunday school. And basically, I grew up in the church, basically. And after high school graduation, my family moved to Canada, and a few years later, I was in a relationship. Well, I started there before meeting Rowena here in Manila. During those times, um, my parents, even my siblings, they strongly disapprove of my relationship. I used to be a very jolly person, and I was really close to my family, my friends, before I met her, my previous girlfriend. And so I wasn't being myself when I was with her. I was really serious. I don't joke a lot, and because my whole family disapproved of the relationship, I was always in pain and always without peace. We both decided on ending the relationship after 5 long years. Okay, during that time, no, I didn't know that my parents was always lifted me up in prayer. My dad always include me in his prayer list, in his prayer request during when he goes to his weekly prayer meetings in CBCP. Fast forward a bit, I met someone new. They were overjoyed. And I even heard my dad calling my mom long distance when my mom was in Canada with before that time. He was very happy. He was very happy. I met Rowena when I was in CBCP. Basically, I was in the sound booth. I always see her from the sound booth looking at sa baba. Di ba nakikita ko sa baba? I always see her going to the front part right side of the pews in the church. But then every Sunday, when I see her, something struck me, something intrigued me about this girl. And then little did I know, surprisingly, that was around October, I think. She joined for the CBCP cantata. Kasi October, di ba? Practice na for December Christmas cantata. Wow! Nag-join. Galing. So as I got very excited, and we started to talk, making my moves. There was one time that I brought our ice cream, and I went to her house, but then little did I know, hindi ako pinapasok. Sabi na, iiwan mo na lang yung ice cream sa baba. Sabi ko, gusto ko umakyat eh. Hindi, wag na. So parang, oh no, sayang naman, matunaw. Di ko matikman yung ice cream. So, I got not really disappointed. I got, nalungkot ako. I became sad. So I talked to my friend, one of my good friends. He says, paano ba yan? Parang ayaw yata ah. It won't work. So sabi niya, kasi sobrang mo yatang kulit. Ang kulit mo siguro talaga. Kasi almost everyday kinakausap ko talaga siya. So baka nakakulitan. So I slowed down a bit. Pero continued pa naman. Days passed and we were okay naman. And then I told a friend na talagang, I know this is the one I will marry. Ito na. So, yan. Ikaw na. Ito na. Siya naman.
Hi, I'm Rowena Velasco. I've been a Christian since I was young. I went to Grace Christian School. I met Clem shortly after getting out of a stressful 3 months relationship with someone. My parents and closest friends disapproved of this guy. I was often anxious deep inside. I didn't have peace, knowing he wasn't the ideal one for me, and yet I still kept hoping and praying that things would improve and that my parents would accept him. I prayed so hard and I really clung on to God. The verse, "Be still and know that I'm God," Psalm 46:10, kept reverberating in my head during my struggle with God. It was so clear that have been forcing my will and not heeding God's will for me. I even asked God for signs. And then yun nga, one day, this guy told me he wanted to pursue another girl, but he still loved me pa rin naman daw. What other sign did I ask pa, di ba? So my heart and my pride were shattered to pieces. When we broke up, I remember saying to God, I've had it with guys. Ayoko na. I met Clem a couple of months after that when my friend invited me to join CBCP's Christmas cantata. That was sometime late October 1997. Clem was the choir president then, and learning my family was into the t-shirt business, he asked if I could handle the t-shirt project for the choir. I was put off by his seeming aggression. He was too makulit, invading my personal space, and I was irritated with him. Would you believe he held this t-shirt and then he told me, "Kaya mo to? Ito." So that really scared me. Imagine I already told him it would take 2 weeks to finish the t-shirts, and yet he still called me every day. I didn't answer most of his calls, and I even hung up the phone when I answered his call accidentally. I wasn't looking into even getting to know any guy then after being burned by my previous relationship. I was just not ready. Tapos, ayan, andyan na itong si Clem. After some time, sa sobrang kulit pa rin ni Clem, parang manhid talaga siya sa rejections. I began to look beyond his irritating persistence to see that he was really a nice person. My parents were delighted when they knew about Clem. They knew Clem's parents kasi years back as a kind and good family. Whenever Clem visited for ligaw, my mom would open our freezer and kung anong meron, just shove it in a bag for Clem to bring home. She kept doing this even after I repeatedly told her that it was inappropriate and that Clem would feel na super pasado na siya. Sure enough, not only did he win my heart, he also won the hearts of my whole family and my friends. Yon.
So, yan. Then, yun, we met late 1997, and we got married July 1999. So, that's around a year and a half of kami. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you. Thank you, Aya Clem at Rowena, for sharing your love
you.
story. Marami atang kinilig. And speaking of nasa sound booth, I think very no, pa yan para yung purpose ni Aya Clem. The joke lang. But speaking of, we're in need, right? We're in need of volunteers for people who actually want to to volunteer. So mag-advertise na ako dito. Whoever is interested, may pagkakataon pala. Thank you, Aya Clem at Rowena. So let me now ask Uncle Bernie and Auntie Cathy to share their love story.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Justine. Hi, everyone. Hi, Clem and Rowena. This is my wife, Cathy. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that as we share our stories and answer your questions, I hope everyone somehow you would be helped, blessed, encouraged by our stories. Actually, yung story namin, if you listen to yung story nila Clem and ours, it's really God's story. So I hope that you meron kayong may uuwi tonight. Okay. So ako naman, it's quite different yung story namin from theirs. Cathy and I actually Cathy is my first and only girlfriend, naging girlfriend, no? Tapos ako naman, I think, ako rin yung una niyang first and only boyfriend, no? I hope so. So anyway, as a new Christian, when I was around 19 to early 20s, I became a Christian. I really like this girl. But my thoughts were always her. So as a result, I felt I was getting distracted from a lot of things already, especially as a new Christian in my relationship with the Lord. So nadidistract na ako. Then at the church summer camp, I talked with our guest pastor about it, and he advised me to seek first God's kingdom and His righteousness. That's actually Matthew 6:33. And from that time on, naging life verse ko, naging favorite verse ko, Matthew 6:33. And he told me to pursue Christ rather than these things first. So I surrendered my desire to the Lord and sought to grow instead my relationship with the Lord. When I met Cathy in 1993, I wasn't seeking to be in a relationship. Hindi ako naghahanap so I wasn't even thinking about it. So nangyari is one night, our phone rang. So nagring yung phone. When I answered the phone, it was my brother's barkada. My brother's barkada from college. No, his name is Johnson. He also knew me because we used to ride home together. He used to ride home together with us from LaSalle. So I thought he was looking for my brother, but he said he wanted to talk to me because he had this sister-in-law, the youngest sister of his wife, a girl named Catherine Tan from Grace Christian High School, and they were the family. Together with him, they were looking for someone to kay siyaw, no, mapakilala kay yun nga kay sa sister-in-law niya. His mother-in-law asked him to kay siyaw her bunso. And Johnson also said that the girl wanted a Christian. Gusto daw ng girl, Christian. And then he asked me if I'm interested to meet her in a blind date. So, sure, why not? I said.
Ako naman, I'm the youngest among 8 siblings. When I graduated from college, I wasn't really desiring to be in a relationship. That time, ang focus ko na sa work. But my mom, who got married at a very young age, kept on asking various people, no, to kay me or to blind date me. No, lahat ng makita niya, mga family members, relative, friends, friends ko, friends niya, friends ng kapatid ko, friends ng friends. Grabe, di ba? She thinks that I'm already old and she was also worried about my dad's deteriorating health at that time. So I was open to meeting other people, though I was not seeking a relationship that time. I was introduced to someone by my sister-in-law in 1992, but the friendship did not last as the guy does not have the same faith as I. One day in June of 1993, my Sansi called and said that they will kaisyaw me daw to the shorty of my brother-in-law's friend. Feeling ko kasi nakulitan na siya sa mama ko, sa kakakulit sa kanya, naghanap na talaga siya. So the blind date was set for June 23. I agreed because my sister said that the person they will introduce to me is a Christian.
Okay, so when I heard that the girl was looking for a Christian guy, it made an impression on my mind. In my mind, sabi ko, this girl probably had strong faith convictions, and that was what I wanted first and foremost in a woman I want to marry someday. So the name came, and our blind date was at Windsor Chinese restaurant in Green Hills. Talk about walang ambience, no? Talagang zero ambience. Blind date in a Chinese restaurant. Ano ba yan? So I walked in, and there she was. All 5 of them. Si Cathy, her 2 sisters, and 2 brother-in-laws. No, nakaka-intimidate. Grabe, ano ba yan? But when I saw her, I was immediately attracted to her physical beauty. As we talked that night, I began to like her. And so I decided to pursue her. So I went home that night. My heart was pounding and I was so happy. I couldn't sleep the whole night. Talaga, literally, hindi talaga ako nakatulog. Tanong nyo sa sister-in-law ko. Never felt this way before in my life.
So that night, honestly, on my side, wala talagang physical attraction to Bernie. And I slept soundly. Sarap talaga ng tulog ko, okay? That day, there was a typhoon that, so my sister called early morning to cancel the blind date. But later in the afternoon, they decided to push through since a typhoon weekend already. We met at a Chinese restaurant in Green Hills, then had coffee and dessert at Dean Street Cafe. Okay, that was one of the famous coffee shop that time. Wala pang Starbucks, walang Coffee Bean, ganyan. So that night, okay naman. I felt comfortable and at ease meeting Bernie kasi andyan yung support group ko, di ba? Remember, yung dalawang sister ko, saka yung dalawang kids ko. So we had a good conversation that night kasi madaldal naman si Bernie. Seems like a nice guy, pero wala talagang attraction.
Inulit mo pa. So I started courting her. Yeah, I started courting her. By the way, Justin, do you still use the word courting now? Baka hindi niya na ginagamit yung word na courting.
Ginagamit pa? Ginagamit pa,
Ginagamit pa. Okay. So I started courting her by calling her every other day. Tapos I would page her. Page her. Alam niyo yun? Page her.
Please explain what page is.
Okay. Page is, we have this device called a pager. No? So if you send message through the pager, you will call somebody and that somebody will send the message. to the pager. Yeah. So I would page her. Tapos I would visit her at her house every Saturday night. So akyat ligaw talaga, very old-fashioned way of courting. So I got to know her more. As I got to know her more, I saw in her a love for God and a desire to follow Him. So yung faith niya, I saw that her faith in God was a living one. Hindi siya nominal Christian. I also saw her values, qualities, characteristics, and I saw how she values relationship over money or wealth. And then I also saw her love for her parents. Of course, I also saw yung flaws niya and weaknesses, but I began to see more of her inner beauty and not just her outward. So as time passed, I found my heart loving her and hoping that she'd love me. I realized this is the woman I want to marry and be with for the rest of my life. So after almost 2 years of pursuing her, 1 year and 9 months to be exact, sinagot niya ako. And less than 2 years after, we got married.
As I got to know him more during our dating period, I started to like him na rin.
Abutin mo.
Foremost was his sense of humor, his personality, and his character. And I can see that more or less we have the same values. And I also saw his genuine love for the Lord. And syempre, nagkaroon na rin ng physical attraction.
That's important.
So 2 days after my 25th birthday, while we were walking in our subdivision, sinagot ko na rin siya. That time I said yes because I felt that he is the one that I want to spend the rest of my life with. We weren't really planning on getting married anytime soon. I don't think napag-usapan nga namin yun eh. But my mom was the one who proposed to Bernie
Yes.
that we get married na because of my dad's health condition. So we got married on November 17, 1996.
So yun, napikot ako ng nanay niya. But
Thank you.
yeah, looking back, I believe God had it all planned out in His providence. This year, we'll be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary. So yeah, we've been married for 25 years with two grown-up boys by the grace of God. And when I say that, I really mean it. It's only by God's grace that I can say we have a good marriage. Though like any other marriage, it's not a perfect one, but it's a very good one. After 25 years of marriage and knowing each other for 28 years, we continue to grow deeper and more intimate in our relationship through the years. Yeah, we've made a lot of mistakes. We hurt each other many times, but we have learned much and we continue to do so. And all this is from God who brought two sinners together and through our marriage to show us our need for Him, for His love, mercy, and grace, and through our marriage to bring honor and glory to His name. So that's our love story.
Thank you. Thank you guys for sharing. Please give them some hearts for Uncle Bernie and Auntie Cathy. I think what I see similarities parang early on in their relationship, even as they were pursuing the women, no, si Ate Rowena and si Auntie Cathy, they already had parang a thought that this is the person that they wanted to marry. So I have so many questions. But before we get into that, I have here some set of questions that were sent in by some of our teammates and upon registration that we got from our audience. And let's start first with the question, the pinaka-question siguro ng lahat ng tao as they mature in this particular age, no? So yung unang-unang question that I want to ask is, how do you know if God wants you to get married or to stay single? So I think for those of us who also have are a bit more familiar with some Bible stories, right? So we see Bible stories around people who are getting married, but also some people who stayed single. So maybe I can ask the Velascos first, Clem and Rowena. How do you know if God wants you to get married or to stay single?
For us, actually, it's depends on your relationship with God. And I mean, only God knows His plans for each and every one of us. How God talks to you through your friends, through your family. So maybe I could just advise that you should pray, walk constantly with God, and be joyful in your walk and in waiting.
Thank you.
Siguro I want to add lang kasi something, this verse came into my mind eh. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love Him. So let's not limit what God can do. Sometimes we really don't know what the future holds, whether you will meet someone or you will stay single. But yun.
Thank you. So I think, no, just to sum up what the Velascos have mentioned, it's really pursuing God first and not limiting God, what God can do in your life. Thank you. Uncle Bernie, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, sa akin medyo may pagka-logic. So, well, first question is, do you want to get married? Do you want to get married? If you found someone, then perhaps God wants you to get married. If you have not found the person you want to live with for the rest of your life, then probably it's not yet time, or perhaps singleness is for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be single, that's actually great. There's nothing wrong with being single. There's a lot of benefit to being single. Sometimes some people look at singleness like a disease that needs to be cured. Diba? It's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's not. Diba? If you want to know God's will for your life, you've got to act and do something. If you want to get married, do something about it. Take a chance. You risk rejection. You meet people. You have a social life. But don't get married just because others are getting married or your parents are forcing you to get married. Get married because you want to get married. But whether you want to stay single or get married, put your trust in God and find your joy in Him. Because our joy and fulfillment in life should never be based on anything but Christ.
Thanks, Uncle Bernie. I think that's so super on point. Auntie Cathy, would you like to add anything?
Grabe na yan.
Sinabi na niya. Okay. I have a second question. So we're talking about for singles who are here who are not yet in a relationship. How do I know that I'm actually ready to date someone? So I think in your stories also earlier, parang how you guys parang how you guys also had your love stories is that it was there was a thought about marriage already. Eh. So magkakabit siya palagi, no? Dating and marriage. Lagi siyang magkakabit. So as a single person, how do I actually know that I'm ready for that? Maybe we could now start with Uncle Bernie and Auntie Cathy.
For me, I would say that if you're still studying in college and especially if you are in high school, you are not ready to date someone. Okay, okay? Because ang priority mo should be your studies, di ba? You should focus on your studying. Okay? And once you date someone, especially if you are seriously pursuing someone, you should have to devote your time to that person. Okay? Also, as a student, yan yung time na you have to develop yourself and develop friendship with other people. So having a relationship too early will limit your time for developing yourself, exploring things, and developing friendship. Okay. On the other hand, when you are already working, starting to make a living, and you desire to get married someday, and you are willing to take risk and willing to make a commitment, then you can start and go that direction. Start to date someone.
Okay. Thanks, Auntie Cathy. At si Rowena, would you like to add anything to that? Wala na. Okay, so it's not just I think just to capture the message, it's not necessarily just the age, but about your priorities in your life, where you are in your life stage, right? So it was, when you're a little bit younger, it's about pursuing your studies, and as you grow a little bit older, then mas mature na rin in terms of personality, etc. Okay. So now, let's say, somebody has already decided based on what you talked about earlier, gusto ko magpakasal. May balak ako magpakasal. I have that desire. So this is kind of broad, but top of mind, what are some characteristics or traits should I look for in a partner? So this applies both for men and women. So I think maybe like may ibang sagot yung for men and for women. Siguro let's start with let's start asking the men. What characteristics or traits should I look for in a partner? Clem, would you like to start?
Isip mo na ako. Personally, I would like to be with a person that I would be myself.
Mm-hmm.
someone that could, di ba, it's a cliche that someone could bring out the best in you. What is best in you? Parang ano, di ba? Parang nasabi ko nga sa family natin sharing, yung Captain America na ano yun, yung
Zero.
soup serum, di ba? It
Super
amplifies what you have in you.
So, ikaw si Captain America.
So, hindi naman ako si Captain America. Pero somehow you're the person that you're looking for, or your partner, to somehow improve you.
Mhm.
Hindi yung will change you.
Mhm.
Will change for a better or change for something better. But then, like I again, no, I would like to reiterate my story, di ba? I was totally a different person talaga, looking back. So, uh, it was a red flag for me, pero I decided to disregard it. So yun, characteristic traits, should I look for a partner? Someone that you could be yourself,
Be free.
be comfortable with, basically.
So now you're very, very yourself with Atsi Rowena. Yes. Okay. Can I ask Uncle Vernie first? For the guys.
Sa akin, wala naman, I don't have any specifically na, okay, this is for guys, this is for girls. But I will just share a few. Cathy can share later. Number one, I would like, siguro someone who fears the Lord. Sa akin yan. Especially if you are a believer. Someone who also fears the Lord, who desires to honor the Lord. Genuine love for God. Yung totoo not just someone who goes to church, not just someone who is active in church. Oh, by the way, not just someone who is mabait. Kasi lahat ng lalaki mabait pag nanliligaw. No? Why? Bakit? Because I believe, this is what I believe. A man who truly loves God, fears God, he would have a soft heart. Siguro for lalaki, okay, would have a soft heart. Mas malambot. And siguro another maybe characteristic or traits would be someone that has a humble and tender heart. Someone who is quick to apologize and say sorry. Someone who acknowledges his or her mistake and accepts responsibility for mistake niya, teachable. Because, bakit? Because going into a relationship, may conflict yan eh. You will have conflict. So, it's not going to be perfect naman, di ba? We all learn. But, somehow, alam mo tong taong to has a humble, tender heart. Ganyan. So, yeah.
Auntie Cathy, would you like to add anything to that?
Sa akin, siguro yung someone who loves people. Passionate and kind towards others, and yung importante kasi how he or she treats people di ba? Okay. Another siguro yung how that person handles his or her temper. Alam naman natin everybody gets angry, but how does this person handles
Thank you. Atsi Rowena, would you like to add anything before I ask a few questions ulit?
Characteristic of traits.
I agree with everyone, no? And siguro responsible person. Yun. Lalo na if you're looking for yung guy. So parang for me, that's very important. That the guy is responsible.
I'd just like to ask, because earlier on when you also shared your love story, right? I think at the beginning, hindi siya instant na the girls were attracted to the guys in different ways. So maybe for Atsi Rowena, it was different. For Auntie Cathy, it was different. So, meron bang parang in terms of characteristics or traits na kaya ayaw niya siya? Like, Atsi Rowena was saying earlier, right, na parang sobrang naman persistent na to, hindi makaramdam, di ba? But still kept pursuing. So, in terms of that, what was ano yung change of heart?
I think siguro kasi at that time I wasn't ready. So parang talaga I didn't think that he was, nagpaparamdam. Nakakainis lang siya, parang gano'n. So then when siguro I think he also slowed down a bit. So parang I had the time to really talk to him. So and then I got to know him, and then I realized na parang you can see from the conversations, you can tell that someone is kind. Di ba? Iba eh, hindi siya mahangin, ganon. So it was, nakakatawa yun. Sabi niya, the best in him.
And that was when you really got to know him.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you guys for
Add,
sharing.
add ko lang, add ko lang. I think this is something very important. Emotional maturity. Yung emotional EQ. EQ. If you're looking for someone, I think that's one of the important thing, yung EQ. You don't want someone na sobrang baba yung EQ kasi nahihirapan ka talaga.
So, I'm just thinking around these questions, these answers that you guys are sharing. If, for example, you are a person and you sort of know na parang these are some things that you need to, you don't really have, you're not really there yet. So, maybe you have some problems with your temper. Alam mo yun, parang what would you advise the singles who are experiencing that right now?
Sa akin, no, you have to watch out for red flags. Okay. If there are things na nakita mo na parang hindi siya okay, then talaga you have to really think and consider that. Sabi nga nila, di ba, during dating, you have to open wide your eyes. Kasi after marriage, you have to close one eye. Sometimes mga two eyes. Kaya kailangan yung mga importante yung mga things that you see, small, big, ganyan. You could really consider and think.
Right.
Meron kasing mga characteristics or the things that you look for which are parang negotiables. Some are negotiables, some are non-negotiables. But when it comes to siguro character or yung sabi nga red flag, iba yung red flag talaga.
And this can be very unique to each person, no? Parang some are red flags for me, but then not for another person.
Right.
So it also takes a little bit of reflection to really understand. Right. So speaking of dating, kanina sabi ni Uncle Bernie, di ba, courtship. So of course, there's a courtship today. Baka ibang lang, ibang terms lang ginagamit natin. So for you as married couples already, what is the purpose of dating? What do you think is God's design and intent for this stage?
Dating for me is really a time to get to know each other. Talaga. Simply put, no, ganun. And of course, as you go out or as you serve, whether in church or at home, when nagbibisita sa bahay, you see that you get to know person in the different situation. So dating is basically parang imagining or thinking, putting each other in different situation and test.
Siguro if we'll also be checking if the personalities match, 'di ba? So parang during the conversations, ganyan, you would somehow find out if you have the same beliefs, views, convictions, values, ganyan. And that's very important, di ba? Kasi all of us naman, we go into dating with the hopes na, somehow you see a future with this person.
Right.
Diba? Most of us don't just date for fun naman eh. I hope.
Yeah. So it's really about talking to each other. You guys have to keep on talking and talking so that you get to know what's really going on inside the person. And also, as what Aya Clem has mentioned, it's spending time across different situations or scenarios. Na minsan dito. So you can know the personality a little bit better.
I agree with Clem and Rowena. It is a time for them to get to know each other and also for them to see whether this person might really be the one to spend the rest of your life. Because during this time, don't just use your heart but also use your mind. So yung kaninang sinasabi natin mga red flags, then it is during this time that you have to take note of that. Okay. During dating is also a time for you to learn about yourself and experiences mo. It helps you as a person.
Uncle Bernie, anything to add?
I agree.
You concur. So, Auntie Cathy, you spoke of the one, no? And I think, parang medyo common in movies and shows that we watch na meron ba talagang the one? And we received this question actually, I think the last table talk that we had. How do I know if he or she is the one? Siya na ba talaga? How do I know who is God's best for me? Is there? So I guess I'll put the question. I'll break down the question to two parts. So number one, is there such thing as the one? And then number two is, how do I know if he or she is really the one?
So sa akin is, siguro I will answer this question is, yung the one as in siya na ba, yung gano'n. Okay, and then I'll answer yung second one later. So kasi each of us have criteria. I mean, kanina na-mention ni Rowena. You have criteria or things you're looking for in someone, faith, character,
Right.
personalities, values. So during dating, as you get to know the other person, doon mo ma-assess and feel if this person could be the one or not. So again, yung na-mention ko kanina, ano yung mga negotiables, non-negotiables, as far as qualities is concerned. Yung assuming walang mga red flags, kasi red flags, once you have the red flags, you really have to stop and really evaluate, di ba? Don't just ignore the red flag. Never. When you see a red flag or red flags, never tell yourself that you can change him or her. You know,
Right.
pagka kinasal na, magbabago yan. Hindi.
Yeah.
So pray and ask God that He would help you to be honest about who you really are, and that you might know the other person for who she really is. In other words, be the real you, sabi kanina ni Clem, di ba? And you'll see if the person will accept and love you as you are and vice versa. And then siguro, how do you know kung siya na ba? You can get wise counsel. Ask your trusted friends who will be honest with you, your siblings, parents, di ba? What do they think? Di ba? And be willing to listen. Because sometimes we need other people to help us, be more objective. Okay? Para alam mo kung siya na ba, yung taong yun, or at least, this might be the person. Tapos, with regards to yung God's best, I don't believe there is only one God's best for you, for anyone. Parang, sometimes we have this idea that out there, I have a soulmate out there waiting for me. And that once you meet this person, you will be complete and be happily married. I don't think that's true. That's not true. Here's the thing. No matter who you end up marrying, and I'm not saying that you just marry anyone, okay? I'm not saying that. But no matter who you end up marrying, it will be hard work. You have to rely on God and work on your marriage. Okay? So there's, I hope you don't get me wrong na you could just marry anyone. But assuming these are you see these qualities, no matter who you end up marrying, it's going to be hard work. So you have to work on your marriage.
You really have like I like to reiterate what Bernie and Cathy said. Kung talagang merong kung walang red flag, no, or if and then siyempre makakatulong yon, and same and the same time you really would have peace talaga, and whatever you have placed, like the parang kumbaga the gauge that yung ano mo, the things that you placed, parang mga guidelines mo mamimit criteria when you're in your courtship period. If it passed, I would say ano ka na,
You would know.
You would know. Of course, you don't forget to you don't neglect the part of praying and ask God for the ultimate guidance.
So this is a question coming from a person. I have been praying for the Lord to provide me with a partner. Okay, so this person is still single. I've been praying for a partner, for a husband, or for a wife for a very long time, and God has not answered me. What should I do?
It's good, no? You're praying. Praying, no? Prayer should be accompanied by action. Okay? Be willing to take risks, go out and be. Kasi mamaya pray ka ng pray, tapos ayaw mo naman makipag-call.
Right,
Okay?
right.
Are you open to other means to get to know someone? Okay, some people look at kaisyaw kasi or blinded in a very negative way, no? But I think that these are good means, no, for you to meet other people. Okay? Also, are your expectations or standards too high or unrealistic? No? It's good to have a list of qualities or ideas, but be practical and realistic too, no? Kasi minsan yung talagang unrealistic yung mga hinahanap mo, baka si Superman yan o si Perfect Man yan, di ba? Do not be too quick also to close doors or turn down someone. Hindi pa nga isang meeting lang ayaw na, di ba? So how will you get to know the other person more? Okay? Now, if you're already doing all of these things, okay, just keep praying and continue trusting God's sovereignty and His wisdom and goodness. If you are a believer, continue to seek Him and be faithful to Him, whether He brings someone into your life or not. Continue to.
Thanks, Auntie Cathy. I think those are very on point. Being open to take also risk, and prayer is always accompanied by action. You mentioned something about kainshao earlier, so I wanted to touch that topic a little bit. So, in our world today, diba, technology is continuously evolving, and there are actually a lot of apps, online dating apps that some people might be using. And even during this time of the pandemic, there are also Facebook groups that have opened up, such as the Kaisha groups. That's a little bit famous to the Philchai community, right? So, do you think it's okay to actually use these dating apps or these Kaisha groups? Is it unchristian ba, or is that or do you think that's allowable for a Christian to do?
Ako na lang. Sige.
Sige.
For me, no, sabi, is it unchristian to use dating mga app? Is it okay to seek a partner through kaisyaw? Yes. No? It's just a means for you to get to know other people, di ba? But just because this is a Christian dating app or site, or maybe yung nagkaisyaw sa'yo, sinabi, oh, Christian yan, mabait yan, don't base it on that. The most important thing is what happens after the kaisyaw. After you met that person. Get to know the other person, really get to know him. Yun yung mas important.
Okay. At Rowena, would you like to add anything to that?
I agree. I agree na it's okay. And siguro syempre, yun nga, when we use these apps or when we go for kaisyaw, ganyan, syempre we also use our common sense din, di ba, in getting to know the person. Doesn't mean that this person joined the Christian dating app or something, means he is really a follower din, di ba? Maybe that's also his or her means lang to get to know others, no? So, exercise lang, due diligence.
Wisdom also, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for answering that. Auntie Cathy also touched a little bit earlier on the topic of para setting very, very high expectations. So, I want to touch this topic kasi maybe some of us who have been maybe walking with the Lord for a very long time may have very, very high expectations. Maybe nga, maybe sometimes sobrang perfect na kasi you're pursuing Christ-likeness, right? So, what can we, and because of that, I suppose, maybe nagiging unrealistic na, and maybe everybody that you meet, you do something naman about it, everybody that you meet seems to not, fit your non-negotiable list or your criteria. What advice can you guys give to this person?
Sa akin as believers, of course, our relationship should be godly. No? But when I say godly, it ought to be one that pleases and glorifies the Lord. Okay? Yung relationship. But just like what you said, don't set unrealistic expectations or perhaps too many requirements or too high a standard. Why? I mean, siguro we have to ask ourselves, ano yung basis natin for our expectations or requirements? What is our basis? Sometimes kasi our expectations, it doesn't even line up with scriptures, or perhaps yung requirements natin are things that the Bible is neutral or silent about. But, and then malabas, mas ano pa tayo sa Bible. That's one. Another thing is, maybe sometimes we misinterpret what the Bible requires, thereby putting much burden on yourself and on the other person, and perhaps hindering you from entering into a relationship kasi too idealistic. Remember, we are all imperfect. We are all fallen. So, yeah. And perhaps, perhaps yung unrealistic expectations natin, it hindi siya faith related but it comes from our background, our upbringing, and perhaps meron kang isang dream di ba? Lalo na ngayon, di ba? Daming nanonood ng Korean telenovela. So parang don't base that on that. Or perhaps yung expectations natin are based on maybe it's based on what you see in someone else's relationship.
Right.
Sila dapat ganyan din yung hinahanap ko. Or perhaps perhaps it's a bad advice from someone. Perhaps yung advice on godly relationship actually contains some bad advice because hey, wala na sinabi sa Bible yun and so oftentimes, and then here's the thing, oftentimes yung expectations natin are externals. Diba? He should talk right, sound right, behave right, do the right things. Dapat he should lead in prayer before we eat, diba? Nothing wrong with that, but the more important thing is yung character. Person's inner life is more important. But that's not easy to see. Pero makikita mo yun as you get to know the other person better. Let me tell you an example. One of the things that attracted me to Cathy, when I was courting her, siyempre, kwento-kwentuhan kami dyan, di ba? Kwento-kwento. Tapos we would talk about anything. Tapos, yun nga, one time we're talking about some people na marriage, yung ganito, tapos or maybe itong mayaman itong taong ito or successful itong taong ito. Tapos may sinabi sa akin, may out of yung conversation namin. Sabi ni Cathy, di naman importante ang pera eh. Ganyan kasi ang dami diyan, ba? Ang dami naman pera, pero ang gulo-gulo ang gulo-gulo or parang wala namang marriage na gulo-gulo. So that tells me something about yung view niya on money or on wealth. So kanina, I think Rowena and Clem mentioned that through yung conversations, doon mo malalaman yung values yung values niya. So, yeah, yun yung sa akin, no? If you're looking for someone.
I have a follow-up question that's a little bit related to what we're talking about. So I'll just read it. It's coming from one of our audience members. So earlier, it was mentioned that dating is figuring out if this person matches with you in various situations and circumstances. It's seeing if you are compatible with the other person before committing, right? And that's what we talked about. So does this actually encourage a consumerist mindset when choosing partners, meaning as opposed to accepting the other person despite your incompatibilities? In a sense, dating for compatibility is also how the individualistic worldly culture teaches us to choose our partners. Where can we strike the balance between searching for compatibility and allowing God to work while we commit to an imperfect relationship?
Medyo nalito kami dun sa
Ang
question.
lalim naman nun.
Okay, let's make it simple siguro.
Sige.
We'll try to
I think in a way, parang you're saying na parang being realistic and also at the same time setting parang our own expectations, right? How do we strike the balance? Yung ba yun?
I guess it's also a balance between parang allowing God to work in the relationship, right? Even while we are imperfect. Yeah.
Well, talagang we are really imperfect eh. So that's not going to improve, no? Kasi even as we try our best to be better versions of ourselves, we cannot be perfect. So that's a given, and we should accept that of ourselves and also of the person na we are pursuing or considering, no? When you say balance, I think I would choose to say na I would keep praying. I would keep praying and be joyful in the waiting because I would like to reiterate again that we cannot limit what God can do. Sometimes kasi He really just surprises us. So I think if we believe that God is faithful and God will give us what's best for us, we don't really have to worry so much. But we also do what Cathy mentioned earlier, no, na of course, we had to be open, di ba? We cannot parang, ay, ayoko to, then I won't go
Mhm.
out na, ganyan. So we
Mhm.
still entertain the idea of socializing with others. And then
Mhm.
from there, siguro, we narrow our, options or consider this or that person
Mhm.
if he or she falls under your parang criteria, parang
Yeah.
ganun.
Mhm.
Did that answer the question?
Is this,
Sorry.
sorry, is consumerist new term ba ngayon?
So it's a list of traits that you're looking for, but can that also be a little bit limiting because parang we're already saying na ito na yung hinahanap natin eh, and we don't give some space for God to work in that person or in the relationship that you guys have now.
I think that guy or that person who would stick to that would be very frustrated kasi it's for me it's not realistic at all.
If
Mm-hmm.
I may, I'd like to quote what Bernie said. We are all imperfect. So your consumerism, is
Only
para
applies to the
only
other.
applies to parang ganun parang
What about us? Ganun ba?
parang ang palette natin McDo lang pero gusto mo nasa five-star hotel palagi, parang ganun ba? Parang ganun. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to be
Parang we expect so
you
much
have to
of
be
others,
realistic. You
no?
have to know
Yeah.
your kung saan ka ba talaga
Yeah.
naka nakalagay. Where
Yeah.
where are you in this
Yeah.
We
uh,
should be that
in
person.
this pool?
Siguro, no?
Di
We
ba
should
ba?
be that person.
Don't try to be parang lumalabas. Actually no, for me parang you cannot place highly in yourselves rin eh. Ibang lumalabas sa iyo eh. Parang
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing to be so perfect, so perfect. Ano tingin ng babae sa'yo? Di ba parang, kaya pala wala kang mapili. Sobrang naman unrealistic yung
Mm-hmm.
ano mo. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
fend off, in my sense, it would fend off a girl na lang, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
So, unless lahat ng niligawan is parang Miss Universe, parang hindi naman realistic.
I think it's really difficult to like strike a balance. So, and I'll pick up on some of the things that was already shared by the panelists. So, I think one of the things that you shared is, of course, prayer is, of course, number one. It's being clear about your criteria, but also not being close-minded. I think that's second. And I think third is that you also both couples talked about being having people around them that they trusted, whether that's family or your closest friends who are are really walking intimately with the Lord, who can give you a sense of parang who can give you wise advice that is really deeply rooted in the Lord. And I think balancing all of those things, especially by yourself also walking with the Lord, would probably give you parang um a way how to balance these things. I don't like I think the question is also very difficult. Parang andali. Pero there's no one there's no one answer. There's no exact answer for it. So I think we can just pick up on the advice also from our panelists. But thank you for the question from our audience. Um, I'm just conscious of the time. So I wanted to ask a few questions about couples already. So the context now is sila na, on na sila, boyfriend, girlfriend, howe na sila. So as a couple, how can we grow deeper in our relationship with God and with each other? So maybe some tips around, when kayo na officially na kayo, how do you guys grow your relationship with God and with each other? Maybe we can hear from Uncle Bernie and Auntie Cathy.
Siguro with God first, no? Okay, in the context of our relationship. Individually pa rin, siyempre, you need to pursue God. Okay? Um, both of you have to have open and honest conversation on spiritual things. Practice having spiritual conversation kahit na during dating time pa lang. This will mean that talk about your own spiritual journey, yung Lord, yung mga beliefs mo, okay? Kasi a lot of married couples never really pray together nor
Right.
talk spiritual lives with each other because they have never learned to do during dating time. Now, married na sila, very awkward na, di ba, for them to do. Okay? So, with each other naman, okay, talk about deeper things and not just yung mga babaw.
Mm.
Be vulnerable, be honest, willing to share what's in your heart, what's
Mhm.
really going in your life,
Mhm.
struggles mo, yung joys mo, desires mo, okay? These things will help you grow deeper in a relationship with each other.
Right. I think the key there is also being very intentional about the things that you talk about. Kasi minsan hindi naman innate, hindi natural to for some people to really talk about these things, right? So we have to, I think coming from what Auntie Cathy has shared, you have to be really, really intentional in asking each other these questions. And the conversation will go from there.
Justin,
Okay.
add lang ako. Quickly lang, add lang.
Go ahead.
In a relationship, especially between believers, no, sometimes there is this frustration or tension when, for example, either the guy or the girl, sometimes yung parang trying to, gusto rin niya, oh, dapat ganito tayo, we talk of this, we talk of that, we pray together, we have devote together. Sometimes
Mhm.
it can create tension and parang don't force it, just encourage it, but don't force it because sometimes dun
Mm.
nagka-tension, which
Mhm.
dapat hindi naman. Baka
Mhm.
may tension and frustration happens pagka
Mhm.
pilit.
Mhm. Okay, speaking of tension, Uncle Bernie. So, in the context of couples who are together, conflicts will definitely happen, right? Conflicts will definitely happen. How do you think? Maybe some tips also. How should couples handle conflicts? How can this be used as a measure of clarity whether or not they should pursue marriage or break it off na lang?
We can talk about conflicts for 2 to 3 hours. So actually, those planning to get married, you can attend our before you say I do classes because we have one class that is handling conflicts. Anyway,
Mm.
siguro two things. When we talk of conflicts, dalawang bagay I feel very important is humility and grace.
Mhm.
Humility and grace. That is very important if you really want to resolve conflicts. Without humility, ang hirap. Humility means you be willing to admit that you're mistaken, that you're wrong. And
Mhm.
grace is be willing to give grace, to forgive, and to accept, forgive and accept the other person for who he is, and not demand that he change, o ganyan. So humility and grace. And then
Mhm.
practical things that you need to do, siguro you need to talk and learn to listen. And when you listen, you truly listen to truly understand the person. Hindi yung makikinig ka, okay, but you're waiting just to, okay, it's ano na, ako na, I will voice my side. No, that's not gonna work. So our goal is not to get the other person to accept your view or to win the argument, but to resolve the issue.
Mhm.
Siguro remember that you are on the same side rather than you are on opposing teams. Even when you have a conflict, you are on the same side, not
Right.
on opposing team. So you
Mhm.
focus on the issue and not the person.
Mhm.
Now, how should this be used as a measure for, measuring whether, okay, to pursue marriage or not? Siguro, how do we, for example, you're in a relationship, paano ba natin, how do we deal with our conflicts? Do
Mhm.
your conflicts get resolved? Do
Mhm.
you understand each other better after the conflict? Did the
Right.
conflict and its resolution, lumakas ba relationship ninyo? Or maybe it caused more doubts and hurts? Diba? And ito pa, how often do you have conflicts? Diba? It doesn't mean that dapat wala, diba? Kasi conflict, it's part of that, diba? It's okay. But if you have conflict very often, madalas every time nakikita lang kayo, conflict, tampuhan, yung ganyan, maybe there are deeper issues.
Mm.
So, yun. So, how does your partner
Mhm.
handle conflict? Does he or avoid? Parang, basta pag conflict kayo, tahimik na yan, stonewall. Okay, hindi kayo mag-uusap for hours, yung ganyan. Diba? Avoid talking about it.
Mhm.
Iwas ng iwas. Or maybe
Mhm.
full-blown attack. Talagang, sisigawan na kayo. Di ba?
Mhm.
Ano yan, baka red flag na yan. So, yun. And
Mhm.
so I guess conflicts, or rather how you deal with this can tell a lot about each other and perhaps give you a glimpse of how your marriage might look like.
Right.
Remember, things might get even worse after you get married. Okay, I'm not saying, okay, but
Yeah. Hindi siya magic naman na parang after you get married, mawawala na siya. It might change and it might evolve pa. Okay. Let me ask this question. I think we got this question in the past also. What if, you're already in a relationship, but your parents are actually against the relationship for whatever reason? How can we determine if I should obey and honor and I'll just break it off, or I should fight for the relationship? Let me ask the Velascos this time.
I guess
Yes.
very put na yung sinabi ko. Talagang ako kasi I am very close with my family talaga. No.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, syempre if someone would drag me out of that relationship, you would know. No, you would know
Mm-hmm.
if mamimili ka. Um, and same way if a relationship is pulling you or tearing you away from Jesus, then
It's a red flag.
it's a big red flag talaga yan. No? It's a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
Not only a red flag talaga, it's a psh, ganun yan, psh, ganun yan. So these things you should be aware. And I guess it all depends on your relationship with your parents, your family, your
Mm-hmm.
friends.
Sana it's open
God talks
communication.
to all these people around you through
Mm-hmm.
different situations, through the church, through your friends, your family most
Mm-hmm.
especially. So you'll know kung ano. Yan lang
Siguro,
masabi ko.
siguro one has also to be objective eh. Kasi like the parents, di ba? Of course, they have our best in mind. But of course, not
Right.
all parents are also perfect,
Yeah.
no? So they might also have unrealistic expectations
Mm-hmm.
very conservative talaga yung mindset nila. So they would object to this and that.
Mm-hmm.
While we need to see where they're coming from, we also need to siguro see what issues are there on the
Yeah.
table. So siguro exercise being objective lang to see na reasonable ba yung
Mm-hmm.
Bakit
ayaw
reject? Bakit
nila,
ayaw
or
nila?
why are they resistant to the relationship,
Yeah.
ganon.
Mm-hmm.
So parang being objective lang, and then siguro pwedeng advice din from spiritual mentors ganyan
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
how best to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Syempre, ideally, we get the blessing of our parents, di ba? If we pursue someone or we're with someone, we
Mm-hmm.
want that. We want the just like our previous relationships before,
Mm-hmm.
talagang disagree yung parents niya doon sa kanya, disagree din yung parents ko sa akin.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was really hard, it was really painful, yun. So, we try
Yeah.
not to deal with that sana. Yun.
Yeah. Ideally, right. And I guess I want to add that I guess just wanted to add on that comment. Now we have to understand what really is the issue,
Yeah.
why the parents disapprove, and as the person, kasi parang kung ikaw yung nasa relationship, ikaw yung nagiging bridge eh. You're the bridge from your parents to your partner, right? And so you have to also facilitate that relationship for them to actually get to know each other. Kasi maybe they just started on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
Maybe they just had maybe they heard from their other kumares or kumpares about this person or this family background, but also parang you're able to actually facilitate that relationship because you have that ikaw lang makakagawa nun eh for your partner and with your family.
Get the
Go ahead, Ate Rowena. Would you like to add anything?
siguro get your parents to know more about your friend or your boyfriend, girlfriend, ganon. I mean,
Mhm.
let them communicate then.
Right. Correct. Agree. Okay. I have a question for the group. So there's a question that we received about in our generation today what people call the Great Wall. So the Great Wall is about choosing a partner who is not the same as your race. And I just wanted to ask your opinion about this. For Christians, is race a major criteria for choosing a partner? Why or why not? Okay. As you know, when you're doing this, so I'll call you to share na.
Um, I don't agree na it will be a problem, no? Kasi it's not ever mentioned in the Bible about the race, eh. It's more of
Mhm.
the faith, di
Right.
ba? We have to have the same faith. But race, no. Kasi I believe we live in this world. Our world has become smaller. And
Right.
we've been exposed to so many different influences from other countries, cultures, everything, di ba? Through music, movies, everything. So right now it's really all about cultural assimilation eh. So parang um, parang medyo accepted na siya
Mm.
socially, culturally, may
Mhm.
assimilation na. But that
Mhm.
being said, syempre, iba pa rin yung some parents are still conservative or still hold certain parang they want to preserve their culture, yung mga ganun. So,
Mhm.
but race is not for me. That's how I interpret it. It's more of a
Mhm.
cultural significance, not so much
Mhm.
biblical significance. Eh.
Mhm. Mhm. Auntie Cathy, Uncle Bernie.
Like yung sinabi ni Roe, no, it's not a faith issue. It is an issue, no, not unique to the Christians. Regardless of religion, it's a factor that one has to consider.
Mhm.
Why? Because the issue is a cultural issue, like what you said.
Mm-mm.
And by culture, it includes yung language natin,
Right.
practices, customs, and we need to realize that our culture differ depending on our base and our. Can you and your spouse to be accept each other's culture, particularly your family's culture?
Mm.
Let's take language, no, as an example. So yan yung palaging ano. When you have a family gathering, what language does your family usually use? Okay? Can your spouse, no, be feel comfortable and be at ease with everyone, no, talking, hindi niya naintindihan, di ba?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So are you willing to adapt to his or her culture? If
Mhm.
okay sa'yo, then there's no problem. Di ba?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so sa akin it's shouldn't be race shouldn't be parang okay dahil iba yung race no American man yan whatever na okay hindi na no
Mhm.
shouldn't be gaya na
Mhm.
sinabi ni Rowena wala namang ganyan sa Bible. However, just have to consider lang. Consider kung everything okay if you can, work it out and parang no problem. Ganda nga yan
Correct.
eh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that there is acceptance also in the difference of the
Yeah.
culture for both sides, right? Which you should be both
Aware.
sides should be willing to accept. Okay.
And aware, yeah.
Correct. Correct. Okay. I have a medyo challenging question, but we got this question. So, I think the Bible is very clear that sex outside of marriage is, of course, against God's design, right? But in the dating stage, or let's say kayo na, boyfriend, girlfriend na kayo, it's not very specific in the Bible what the right level of intimacy should be. So, in your opinion, what advice can you give to the audience about what the right level of intimacy should be at this stage?
Okay. I will be very frank about this.
Yes.
So you mentioned that the Bible is clear that sex outside of marriage is wrong. Okay, so ano yan, that's very clear. So set boundaries that will ensure that you keep yourselves sexually pure
Okay.
and stick to those boundaries.
Mhm.
And men should be the one that lead this, not the woman. Okay, not the women, yung setting of the boundaries. So ito lang, okay? I would, perhaps this is not from the Bible, for me lang. Don't go beyond holding hands and hugging. So I'm sure some of you might not agree. Pero siguro more on the principle. Avoid any activity that tempts you towards sex
Mhm.
or that gives the appearance of immorality. Okay? Avoid and then decide that, umpisa pa lang, you decide that you will honor the Lord and honor each other in your relationship. This, our body belongs to the Lord.
Mhm.
Bible says that. Kasi temptation will come. It will come. Okay, nanggaling na tayo dyan. Even, if maski 50 years old ka na, natatempt ka pa nga di ba? So temptations will come. Some people have strong self-control, some don't. And when it comes to sex, I say most men and some women don't have strong self-control. So what is okay to me may not be okay to another. Example lang I said, don't go beyond holding hands and hugging. Example, even a mere hug can be tempting for someone. it might arouse someone sexually. But for others, okay lang, di ba? So, you know what, as a, as an individual, you know what tempts you. Alam mo yan, alam niyo yan, what arouses you, what tempts you. So you yourself would know what boundaries you need to set so that you can maintain sexual purity and so that you can avoid anything that may lead you to sin sexually.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think you also talked about men leading this, no? And it's not just about not talk. I think the key here is actually you also talk about it. Because for a man to lead this particular topic in a relationship, you guys have to talk about it, no? Any advice, Uncle Bernie, for the men in the group? How can they lead such? It's sobrang awkward, especially, diba?
Well,
How do you lead that
in a
conversation?
relationship, especially, syempre, serious na kayo, and more or less, kayo na di ba? Kayo na. So parang,
Mm.
it's just a matter of time that you get married, di ba? So
Mm-hmm.
darating kayo dyan, di ba? So you really have to talk about it, even if it's awkward, di ba? Even if it's awkward, but why do you need to talk about it? Because you want to honor the Lord. Example, okay, I want to set these boundaries. I want to, alam mo, actually, you can even say, you know what, this pagka ganito, natetempt ako. You can, of course, every relationship, iba-iba yan, di ba? But if you really would like to honor yung partner mo, then you have to talk about awkward things. You have to bring it out on the table. I don't know how you're gonna start it, but you have to somehow start somewhere. The
Mm-hmm.
first one would be awkward, but
Yes.
if alam mo, lay it on the table, awkward, the awkward. I mean, di ba? Just because it's awkward, don't avoid it just because it's awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Di ba? Embrace the awkward because you know what? I respect you, love you, I love you, and siguro yun, I love you enough to want to talk about this thing.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go and ask some more questions about marriage naman. Okay, so we're almost towards the end of the Q&A portion, but I'll try to ask a few questions about marriage. So the first one, I'd like to ask Aya Clem and Ati Rowena first on this. Why should I even consider marriage? Why should I get married?
Well, ano naman if that is really God's will for you, why not, 'di ba? Parang it's a union of a man and a woman, and it's really God's design, 'di ba? I believe na kaya nga Adam and Eve, 'di ba? May Eve, not just Adam. So yun. I think because of love, and if the marriage will honor God, it's good. It's good to pursue marriage. Ikaw, add mo.
Pwede ko ba i-add yan? Since we're talking about yung pinag-usapan ni Bernie kanina, men have, di ba, yung may desires naman eh. We are all adults here. Or humans have this desire that they need to fulfill. Since it should be within marriage eh. God designed marriage for family. Di ba? For pleasure, di ba? So, isa yun sa isa yun sa mga why God designed marriage eh.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just intimacy because God wants you, both of you, or He wants to see offsprings. He wants to see your yung mga anak, di ba? Let's be realistic. Yun lang ang way for di ba? To go further. To go further up from the holding hands. Diba? So that's why God designed it. It's a perfect design. God has a perfect design for that. So marriage is the way. I don't know, but
Marriage is part of marriage is sexual intimacy. Pero add ko na rin habang we're waiting for the host. Siguro, if you want to have your own family, you want to have a family of your own, And if you believe you need a helpmate to serve the Lord, then get married. Siguro isa pa is not siguro not why you should get married is sometimes, some couple they wait too long to get married. Sometimes they wait too long to get married na parang, ano pang hinihintay nyo? Magpakasal na kayo, yung ganon. sometimes they want everything to be so perfect, everything to be at the right time and all that. Get married, di ba?
Hi, sorry, I'm here in the other room. I lost my other connection. So I have two more questions left. So I hope you can spare me more time. The next question that I have is, not talking about marriage, what are the things that we should prepare for? So, Uncle Bernie was talking about ano pang inaantay. Pero ano ba yung dapat naming i-prepare for? And these things can actually be emotional things, financially, spiritually, socially, physically. What are, some of these things that we should prepare for?
Sinabi mo na eh. Actually, sinagot mo na. Diba? So, I mean,
Ganun
siguro,
na ba?
prepare yourself emotionally, spiritually. Yung emotional, very important because, in a relationship and once you get married, alam natin yan eh, when you get married, talagang emotionally dapat ready ka na, prepare ka na, di ba? So, you cannot prepare 100% na
Right.
wala naman eh. You cannot prepare, talagang ano na. But somehow you know that, okay, yeah, I think, I'm ready to handle yung mga emotional, challenges. No? Spiritually, you have to be ready. Diba? If you're a guy, prepare to lead spiritually your family. Diba? Dapat, you yourself. Tapos, some practical things siguro, saan kayo titira? Ayan, where are you going to live? Diba? So pag-usapan niyo yan, where are you going to live? That's one, where. And how are you going to live financially? So paano yan? You're earning. So talk about, kasi yung finances, no? That's one of the top causes of marital conflicts. Finances. So you have to talk about that. So yun, sa akin yun lang, yung mga practical things that you have to prepare before getting married. Aside from, the other things.
We sort of touched a little bit about this already, about gender roles. So the Bible says that God's design in marriage, and I guess I want to ask this specifically to the women, no, na the design for marriage is that women will submit while men will lead in a marriage and in your future family. So I guess my question is, number one, before kapang magpakasal, should we already be practicing this? Should we already be, as women, should we already be submitting to our partner? Or the follow up to that is, if we should be practicing it, how should we practice it?
First of all, dapat meron correct biblical understanding of submission is, no?
Mm-hmm.
Lalaki sa kayong babae. Okay? The reason why some women find it hard to submit is perhaps they have a wrong idea of biblical submission. So what does biblical submission look like? Okay? It is submitting to the husband out of love and respect. Hindi yung out of fear or out of obligation. No? Out of obedience to the Lord. Really love the Lord, and it's a command from us women to submit to the husband. It means also cooperating with and following the husband's leadership. Okay? It's not to say that you cannot disagree, no? Or that you cannot express your opinion. Hindi ganun eh.
Mhm.
Okay?
She always disagrees with
Mm.
me and have so many opinions.
You can express your opinion. You can express your opinion. The wife's role of submission does not imply that she is less valuable than her husband since she voluntarily submit to him eh, di ba? Hindi naman siya forced,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
okay? So how do you cultivate a submissive wife? Okay? It begins with a correct understanding, sabi ko, biblical submission. And as your relationship with God grows deep and your love for Him grows, it is God's grace that will enable you to submit to your husband. So, hindi natin kayang gawin yan mag-isa eh. It's only by the grace of God can we
Mm-hmm.
truly submit to our husband. So, if you two really want to practice, no, sabi mo, can you practice it during dating period? If you really want to practice it, I guess you can. But you don't have to, but you can. You have to talk about it and define how you want to practice it. Okay? Ako, for men, no, to men, no, I want to say this to men, no. nandito sa meeting, make it easy for the women to submit to you. How, according to the Bible, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for it. So in the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. Mahal niya talaga yung wife niya, then it would be easier for you to submit.
Thank you, Auntie Cathy. Before we close this portion, I guess I just want to ask, last few words to share from our panelists. Maybe we can start with Aya Clem and then Ati Rowena, and then I'll call on the Gatchalians to do their, final words for the audience.
It's overwhelming to see so many people, so many young couples here, no? Young couples, sorry, young people, and some couples that are young. Always don't forget that God is your priority. Your relationship, di mo pwedeng pakawalan yun, di mo pwedeng ibago. No, that's your priority, and you should enjoy your relationship, and siguro you should find good friends to be with that could really support you in your Christian endeavor, your values, and your mahirap yung Sunday or my small group isang grupo, pero when my courtship or with my dating group iba naman yan. So talagang magko-conflict yan. So talagang you should be with the same or with a good group, no? So be aware of these things, no?
I want to add lang kasi I noticed the young people these days, no, they're very parang vocal about being individualistic, being very yung equality, yung mga ganon. Siyempre, I also have my own kids, di ba? So parang they're also exposed to that, no? So I just want to say that yung mga gender roles na yan, I know it's a very controversial topic for some young people these days. For me, my opinion, God is a God of order and efficiency, as we can see in creation. And if you truly believe and love God and believe that He is who He says He is, that He loves us, He is faithful, He will do what's best for us, then I would say in everything that He implicitly teaches us in the Bible, sana we follow.
Mm-hmm.
We follow as much as we can. Like, for example, when we're seeking marriage, ganon, God's design for marriage, for a man, for a woman, let's follow that. Kasi sayang kasi, we might miss His blessings if we don't follow Him. Yun lang. For me, yun lang overall.
Okay, for me, siguro yung pursue God, whether you're single, in a relationship, or planning to get married, no, pursue God, because it's only God can find true satisfaction in life.
Mm-hmm.
And also stop looking for the perfect one, but instead of looking for the perfect one, start to be the perfect one for whoever future partner is.
Thank you. Uncle Bernie.
If I could just talk to yung mga all our participants here, no, especially those who are not yet married or planning to get married, or marriage, no, marriage is a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. Being single is also a great thing. Okay, I say that with all honesty. In fact, sometimes nga, pagka nag-aaway kayo, you wish single ka eh. But anyway, so marriage is a great thing talaga. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. However, if I could just talk to you face to face, and this is what I also tell my kid, don't try to find your satisfaction, your worth as a person, your parang meaning in life, your joy in life sa partner mo, because you will be disappointed. Because marriage is not designed for that. Yes, there's a level of satisfaction and intimacy in marriage, but it can never be perfect because only in Christ can we find our true joy and true satisfaction. And that's my experience. It's only when I find my joy and my glory and satisfaction in Christ, and I'm continuing to remind myself and to learn that. It's only when that happens and when I realize, hey, it's only in Christ can I really be, fully satisfied, then I'm able to love Kathy better.
Mhm.
Then you're able to love each other better. Why? Because now when I love her, I'm not trying to get something from her, to get the satisfaction, to get fulfillment from her, to get her to love me. Now my love for her somehow mas nagiging selfless.
Mhm.
Okay? Mas selfless, yung ganyan. So, find your joy, your satisfaction in Christ and in Christ alone.
And with that, thank you very much to our panelists. So, guys, give them a heart or a thumbs up, whatever reaction you want to give them. Thank you again to both Uncle Bernie, Auntie Kathy, as well as Anya Clem and Ati Rowan. I'm sure all of you guys learned so much tonight. There's a lot that I myself took notes. And I think some of you guys also took notes that we can really bring home. Before I move on to the next portion of this table talk, I just like to quote this quote from Madeline L. Engel. When we were children, we used to think when we were grown up, we would no longer be vulnerable. But to grow up is to accept vulnerability. And that's the truth, no? Parang our souls are intrinsically wired for intimacy. But like everyone else, we're actually afraid to be vulnerable, to open up, to getting hurt, right? And we fall in love with the destination, but not the journey. And sometimes we don't want the awkward process of, journeying through this relationship from getting to know to dating, etc. Diba? But we all want to have that relationship. So tonight, I think it was eye-opening also, and it was a great reminder that yes, relationships can be complex, they can be complicated, but an even greater reminder tonight is that there is a great designer and author behind these relationships and behind this, intricacies in life. And as a single today, whether you're single, you're in a relationship, or you're already eyeing the next step to marriage, this chapter of your life has a purpose, and this season is really to experience the fullness of joy in God. And I think that was a very, very common theme from our panelists. And even in the most broken or complicated uh, pieces, right, there's always a purpose that we find from the hands of our loving God.